Today on the Topic Show, Elon Musk to sue Media Matters, Bud Light Kelsey Bowl gets less than 150 likes, Vivek tweeting saying it's time to stop saying people of color goes viral, Nikki Haley critiques TikTok for being a Chinese spyware company, but her daughter uses it heavily, Ford to throttle their EV battery production, Best Buy Q3 results are in, American Eagle stock has a little bit of a broken wing, and Toyota Finance being fined $60 million. All of that and much, much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of November, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Ford to throttle their EV battery production by 40%. Now, this story came to us thanks to Dave Boucher at the Detroit Free Press, which I don't know what's more astonishing, the fact that Detroit still has a newspaper, and they say it's free, but you have to pay for it. But word puns aside, it's one of those instances where most companies are starting to figure out the adoption rate for EVs are precipitously declining. Although the governments, don't get me wrong, they're pushing it heavily. It's a de facto ban on the great American invention or perfection of the V8 engine, the internal combustion engine. Well, especially those with the manual transmission. That is the most superior, fun way to drive. I can't recommend that experience enough. But that's just my 3 cents. It used to be 2 cents, but 4-year hyperinflation, gotta be 3 cents. Should be 4, but I'm a generous man, just 3 cents today, though. Still free to click the subscribe button down there. Or there. I don't know how your phone is oriented, but nevertheless, the button is there if you search for it. Now, you have a de facto ban in the automotive industry where the U.S. government is increasing basically the point of the tailpipe emissions to such a preposterously absurd high amount. The only way to reach the tailpipe fleet averages for the emissions is to make EVs. So that's why all these companies are making EVs. It's not because customers are going out there and really demanding it. There are a couple of those, don't get me wrong, and all 18 of those customers will be probably sorely disappointed when they pay $25,000 to get a new battery for the vehicle. But nevertheless, a lot of these companies are investing billions upon billions of dollars into EVs. General Motors thinks it's going to be their future, with Mary Barra, the CEO, saying that Cadillac will be full EV by 2030 and General Motors complete fleet will be all EV by 2035. Even though that would probably destroy all the margins that they make on their SUVs and trucks. But nevertheless, that's the direction they're going in. Other manufacturers have followed suit as well, including Ford. Ford recently made an announcement that they're going to construct several battery factories in the United States where they can actually construct some of the lithium-ion batteries that they'll be putting into their vehicles. Now, this comes, again, thanks to Dave Boucher of the Detroit Free Press, and they announced specifically that they are reducing their commitment to its planned Marshall area EV battery facility by 800 jobs and more than $1 billion, which those will reduce their plant's production capacity by roughly 40%. Now, this announcement represents a drastic shift for the company that promised 2,500 jobs and $3.5 billion investment when they revealed earlier this year by Ford and Governor Gavin Whitmer. Ford spokesman Mark Truby acknowledged that the company's cuts also certainly mean that the state will reduce the roughly $1.8 billion promised in taxpayer subsidies for the mega development. When asked for comment, they said, quote, "We've been studying this project for the past couple of months. I think we're all aware EV adoption is growing, and we expect that to continue actually, but it's not growing at the pace I think ourselves in the industry had expected," unquote. Which makes sense. Other major automotive companies, such as Toyota, they're doing a pretty big pivot. Toyota, they're investing heavily into hybrid technologies, and the batteries are going to be put into those vehicles. If you look at the adoption rates in the United States, what the consumers are looking at, they're much more open to a hybrid technology as opposed to 100% EV, which I always tell people EVs are great if you want a luxury toy. It's one of those instances where the detriment why I don't personally want to buy an EV, they only have 2 pedals or sometimes 1 pedal. There's no such thing as manual transmission for them. Also, it has 3 pedals and the most fun you could ever have in a vehicle. But also, it's like a smartphone. And someday, don't get me wrong, materials technologies and engineering is a fascinating topic in and of itself and a huge area of innovation in the United States. But as of right now, the technology we have, they're basically like smartphones. They're disposable. Only one manufacturer can work on it, aka the person you buy it from, such as Tesla, Ford, or GM. And again, the batteries go bad. So at the end of the day, the batteries will cost between $7,000 to $12,000, $25,000. As opposed to if you get a good old internal combustion engine, which if it's a Toyota or Honda, will last darn near a quarter of a century and a million miles. But you also, if you need to repair it, it's better for the environment, in my belief, because again, a traditional internal combustion engine is just standard metals. You just drain the oil out, you take the metals, you can melt it down and make new things. With the core of an EV vehicle, that's mostly lithium ion, which if you do IT recycling, that is one of the most difficult things to recycle. There are places opening up to facilitate that growing need, but it's still extremely expensive and much more dangerous, as opposed to lead acid batteries, which are darn near infinitely recyclable. And yes, you have to wear a hazmat suit for those because it's lead exposure, of course. But nevertheless, it's one of those issues where the resources aren't catching up and the demand is. I'm very pessimistic in terms of the adoption of EVs, especially in the short term, as Americans are starting to tighten their belt, which is a tremendous difficult thing because most Americans are overweight, unfortunately. But what's going to last your family 10, 20 years? It won't be an EV. Now, anecdotal experience, my family has a 2001 Honda Accord. They purchased it new in 2001. Or I guess technically 2000 because it's a 2001 year model. But nevertheless, it still runs because it's a good old-fashioned Honda with an internal combustion engine. So when you're looking for the best ROI, that's usually what I'm looking for. And that's the best option with the technology we currently have today. Now, Trubel also said that Ford initially anticipated the factory would produce 35 gigawatt hours worth of batteries annually, enough to equip 400,000 vehicles. Now the company expects that to be about 20 gigawatt hours, representing roughly 42% reduction in output, approximately enough for 230,000 vehicles, which again would still be a huge sales figure. And the total number of those vehicles is going up. I just believe the adoption rate at which people are purchasing those is decreasing. A lot of the early adopters already have their Teslas. The other manufacturers are starting to catch up. I know Mercedes is getting into the game. Hyundai is getting into the game. But again, like most technologies, you always have your early adopters who are willing to pay a premium for a product. That's why people paid over $100,000 for the original Tesla. And then you got the little bit more less of the early adopters, but a lot of those people already have their EVs. Now, the nice thing for the EV community is that those will precipitously, go bad pretty quickly and they'll have to buy another EV, or maybe they'll learn. But nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see as more and more of these companies are starting to pull back on these initiatives and decrease these initiatives, where are going to put their investment dollars? I mean, Toyota as well as BMW historically have talked about hydrogen technologies, and there are a couple other alternatives I think are definitely worth investing and putting more research into. It'll be interesting to see at the end of the day what's the most efficient thing. Remember a couple years ago, UPS had a huge article knowing how they were doing a whole fleet of natural gas engine for their little delivery vehicles. That was a huge initiative, and many people say that's one of the most efficient ways to use fossil fuels is good old natural gas in those cars. But it'll be interesting to see where Ford goes from here. Let me know what you have to say. It'd be fascinating to hear. But when it comes to my 3 cents, I'll stick to my good old Honda Civic Si with 3 pedals and a stick shift with an internal combustion engine. That'll last darn near probably a million miles in a quarter century, but that's just my 3 cents. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in. Again, have a happy Thanksgiving. Especially want to thank you for taking the time to tune in today. Don't forget to take the time to subscribe. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of November. So if you click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, any comments are greatly appreciated because I want to make the channel better and better, and your feedback is appreciated, even if it's harsh critique, because I argue that is how you grow the most. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.